Hello everyone, AJ back for the Mighty Gluestick channel, bringing you weekly doses of D&D lore and sometimes more. So, there was a poll on the new upgraded community tab on the channel homepage on YouTube, and the votes were cast. So today I'm bringing you, finally, the Abyssal Dragons. Actually, there is no distinct Abyssal Dragon. There is, however, the Abyssal Drake. And by Drake standards, this one is way up there in terms of things that can ruin your day. So just to let you know how we're doing with On the Dragon series, an update, for those of you who are either wondering how many dragons there could be, or are worried we're going to run out of them to cover, a bit of an update and preview of what's ahead. I've taken a look at a few of the distinct draconic species of the lower planes. Obviously, for the Nine Hells, we have the chromatic queen Tiamat and the Abyssal, but there are quite a few of her consort, former consorts and offspring. The spawn of Tiamat certainly need a video. We have the Styx dragons, who dwell in the pan-dimensional current of evil waters that flows through and connects the lower planes. The plane of Archeron has the Rust dragons, already covered in an earlier video. I still have the Battle dragon, Chaos dragon, Ethereal dragon, Howling dragon, Oceanus dragon, Pyroclastic dragon, Radiant dragon, Tartarian dragon, and the Song dragon to cover. And also, somebody was mentioning a Force dragon. Force Dragon isn't officially a part of the 5th edition D&D lore, but I can certainly do a video on those as well. All of which are the last of the true dragons, and my exploration of them will be complete, unless anyone else tells me otherwise. Then, well, there's the small army of lesser dragons to cover. This includes many of the drakes I did not mention earlier, the Lenorm and varieties of Wyrm, Worm, and Landworm. Also the Dragonel, Imalkankari, Ibrandlin, and the Baraltha. Today, though, let's talk about the Abyssal Drake. Long ago, a horrific breeding program was carried out. By exactly who, nobody knows for sure. I would speculate it might have been done by the Cybriacs on behalf of some other demonic power who held them in captivity at the time. That reminds me, I really need to do a video on the Cybriacs and why they are so important and why I mention them so often, because they really are quite important to the whole concept of demons in the Abyss. Whatever the original process was, there was a crossbreeding of the worst traits of Wyvern, Red Dragon, and pure demonic essence, the result of which is the huge and tremendously aggressive Abyssal Drake. They have bat-like wings, venomous tail spikes, 2 powerful legs with primitive wicked claws, red scales, dark red scales, covering their thick hide, and the ability to breathe unholy fire in a 60-foot cone of destruction. Their fighting habits are very much like a wyvern. They plunge out of the sky in a seemingly uncontrolled dive, the dragon fear, falling like a shadow of terror down upon its prey. Then they unleash their fire in a massive jet that burns both physically and spiritually, like the flames of hell itself, accompanied by a shrieking scream of rage. It will then either sweep past, its wings tearing up the air as its claws speed by, shredding anything they can reach, or it will slam down onto the ground and pivot to sweep its tail like a giant whip, the poison stingers bringing painful death to anyone they dig into. While originally intended to be mounts for demon lords, and some actually are, though at great risk and some extreme difficulty, the Abyssal Drakes are just too savage for most riders to handle, and their murderous instincts are either constantly catered to, or they end up turning on their master and tearing them to shreds, quickly reducing that to profane ash after they unleash their breath weapon. Abandoned, they escaped into the wilds. Now they can be found on many of the abyssal layers, hunting down any living thing and destroying them. Little is known of their breeding habits, if they retain any sort of normal biological reproduction of their draconic ancestors, or if they simply spawn duplicates once they've grown in power from sufficient acts of wanton destruction and mayhem, as per the way of demons. They don't seem interested in establishing any sort of defined territory. Rather, they roam at random, their path unpredictable, chaotic, and very destructive. They do avoid places of cold, ice and snow. They are vulnerable to cold attacks and find environments like that not to be worth their time. They have dark vision out to 60 feet. They are immune to all forms of fire. They are affected by magical... they're not affected by magical sleep effects or paralysis, and have resistance to lightning and acid, so that's their demonic traits. They're huge in size, Their bite attacks and claw attacks have a 10-foot reach. Their tail stinger has a reach of 15 feet. Their frightful presence extends out to 120 feet and works just like a red dragon does, as does the venom of their tail stinger behave just like a wyvern does, except much worse. The venom, of course, is way worse than any ordinary wyvern on the material plane. Failure to make a DC 19 Constitution saving throw will result in 2d8 plus 8 damage. Plus, the following round, the victim must again save against that DC 19 or suffer one level of exhaustion. If they fail that save, they save the following round against another level of exhaustion, and so on until they make the saving throw or potentially collapse and die. They don't have claws that are designed to pick up a victim, but they can grab them in their jaws and carry them aloft for the purposes of dropping a particularly tough foe. Since the fall inflicts 1d6 per damage per 10 feet, and the Abyssal Drake has a flight speed of 80 feet per round, you could say that this 80 feet can be straight up in the air from a leaping start if they use all of their actions for the round. So basically carrying that heavy target as a dash sort of action would carry them 80 feet straight up. They may then whip their long neck upward and fling the victim higher into the air, adding another 20 feet to the fall, which they then follow with another diving attack on the target, either vaporizing the area or shredding the body with their claws. They have a special ability to rend any target they dig both sets of claws into. This inflicts the 2d6 plus 8 from each claw, plus another 1d6 plus 16 rending damage, and they are plus 14 to hit with all of their physical attacks. The bite does a nasty 2d8 plus 8 damage plus a further 6 points of fire damage from their infernal breath, boiling spit, and red hot fangs. They basically got flames billowing out of their mouth all the time. The flame of their breath weapon is particularly potent. Not only does it do damage similar to a red dragon, with its DC 21 dexterity saving throw to take half damage, doing 18d6 or 18 to 108 damage if you fail saving throw and take full damage. Half of that is unholy damage that is not subject to any protection against fire. They are capable of taking on foes much larger and more vicious than any humanoid. I mean, these things hunt down and eat other demons on the various layers of the abyss. While normally encountered alone, they can form a partnership with another of their kind. It may be a breeding partnership, it may just be convenience, or they take off in flights of 3 to 6 on their way to lay waste to an area or to take down a legendary foe. What inspires them to group up like this, I don't know. As mentioned, some epic villains actually manage to ride these monsters, usually by strong enchantments, as they're not immune to being charmed, or by constantly feeding them potion designed to do the same sort of thing. They're at home in the wildly variable environments of the many abyssal planes. With an armor class of 18 and just over 200 hit points for your average adult, the oldest of them are gargantuan in size and have an armor class and hit point pool comparable to an adult red dragon, complete with legendary resistance, and adding in a legendary wing attack plus some sort of freakish abyssal mutation is always a great idea. My suggestion would be something like metal weapons that strike the Drake are affected as per a heat metal spell, or all piercing and slashing attacks unleash a spray of boiling hot blood, or get lodged in the thick overlapping scales and require a dexterity or strength check to pull free or twist and extract safely. Otherwise they get torn out of the character's grasp. You could also go with the Cloverfield trick and have the gargantuan Abyssal Drake covered in demonic parasites, which could be reskinned rot grubs or sturges that would certainly be an inconvenient nuisance in battle if they're falling off this thing, particularly if they carry some nasty diseases. The advantage of unholy fire breath is that you could use it to melt structures, making areas of difficult terrain from molten pools or walls of fire, and stepping out of the evil flames, more demons, because they get summoned by this chaotic evil destruction. The gargantuan drake could also slam the ground with its tail so hard that it could knock adjacent foes off their feet in a 40-foot line from the back of its body. Another good legendary action. Abyssal drakes don't generally appear on the material plane. If they do, it's not hard to tell they're around. The trail of destruction is fairly awesome to behold, and they have a demonic appetite for that destruction. Unlike wyverns, they can speak, both abyssal and common. Plus, of course, their frightful presence is quite unexpected for from what at first appears to be a wyvern. Those who don't make a very good perception check might not even notice the lack of arms or the unusually robust tail and the wicked spines, but I assure you they will not forget an encounter with an abyssal drake anytime soon. Doubly so any being who is mighty enough to ride one into battle. So that's the abyssal drake for you. It's probably, I think, one of the biggest and meanest of the drake variety, and certainly worthy a mention. So let me know from that list that I chortled off before which of the dragons you'd like me to cover next. Other than that, the poll says that I should cover Nightwalkers next, and I'm actually pretty keen to cover Neogi, but also I want to carry on with my Lords of Destruction series. Just a quick note for those of you who are Patreon subscribers, I left a note on my community channel about Patreon doing some weird things with their pricing and charging patrons an extra administration fee. I'm really not happy with that, and I totally don't blame you if you want to pull out of Patreon either permanently or temporarily as a protest. It won't affect me greatly. Certainly do that as a protest. Don't pay them any money and let them know with your wallet that you disagree with that action until they fix it. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to be back with another video very shortly.